Hi, I'm Sameer Jain at Active Allocator. I attended a great conference on the future of the European Union. It is hard to predict the future of Europe. There are huge challenges to the whole of Europe, and these come from, of course, things like what they talked about in the conference, climate change, an aging population, unemployment, immigration, global security. All of these are issues that the EU must find solutions to. There was a lot of talk about mitigating climate change, defining a common strategy to address migration flows, and strengthening the security of EU citizens. At the same time, the EU must deal with new risks that are induced by a changing global environment. On the one hand, rising protectionism across the globe, Brexit, the looming prospects of a global trade war. All of these have potential to create new challenges for the EU project. As an American, and looking at it from the US lens, successive US administrations and many members of Congress have long supported the EU, the European integration project, viewing it as something that is crucial to European peace and security, and as a way to foster strong US allies and trading partners. So the United States and Europe share a dynamic political partnership on an array of foreign policy issues, and the US-EU trade and investment relationships have been extensive, and for the most part they have been mutually beneficial. So in the years ahead, much of this may have significant strategic and economic repercussions for the United States. And at the same time, EU leaders are concerned about, and rightly so I guess, indications that the Trump administration could diverge from a traditionally held US view on European integration and the US-EU partnership. So in this context, strengthening the resilience of the economic and monetary union, whose architecture unfortunately remains incomplete, is what they talked about in the conference, is going to be essential. The other thing, on the other hand, another wave of industrial transformations based on mega trends such as digitalization, the acceleration of innovation, heightened sustainability concerns, is expected to raise disparities across different EU territories. And as a result of this, the geographic concentration of nationalism across the continent could also threaten the EU's integration prospects. What they felt in this conference is there is growing consensus that European economies must reform to respond to these new structural challenges. Some that I just talked about, there were so many more that I don't remember now. The priority, it seems, is to support and design the implementation of structural reforms in EU member states. And there is also general agreement that the effectiveness of EU instruments aimed at increasing the implementation of reforms could very well be improved. But the debate about the ultimate goal of structural reforms still remains open. Some argue here that these should focus on reducing macroeconomic imbalances that may negatively impact the EU's growth prospects. Others consider that they should be focused on reducing regional disparities or enhancing social inclusiveness. A critical point seems to be to assess the extent to which the EU's new structural reform agenda is able to modernize the European economy while empowering EU citizens in territories that are actually adversely impacted by the acceleration of globalization, the advent of this new phase of technology change. So the experts that were here recommend that the Commission rethinks the rationale of the distribution of EU support for structural reforms in EU member states and it sets out a positive forward-looking agenda for change. What that is still very nebulous. What they also felt is the Commission should take on the role of a strategic enabler in the implementation of the EU's growth agenda by putting structural growth enhancing reforms at the heart of a new growth strategy for the EU. A stronger engagement from stakeholders could help deliver greater clarity, visibility, a more compelling narrative for the EU and the Commission to champion the structural reform agenda. These are all very macro trends that in some way will influence our calls for asset allocation, but it's very hard to draw a direct linkage between asset pricing and the kind of things that I have just talked about. But we are keeping an eye out on it for you. I'll keep you posted. Thank you so much for listening in. Bye-bye.